You are watching Hot Springs Village Venues.
Hello and welcome to an episode of Village Venues. I personally believe there are a lot of different episodes that we have, but this one is one of my favorites because we have Mr. Jason Temple with us, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. And let me tell you what that means. All the headaches come this way. Is that correct? Do they come up to the top here?
A lot of headaches, a lot of challenges, a lot of fun solving problems.
Well, and I want to tell the audience, if you don't know, one of the skills that I think Jason brings to the table and that I'm delighted about is that Jason is an engineer. And tell me more about what kind of engineer. What do you do?
Well, I started out as a civil engineer. I've been practicing as a licensed professional engineer for, nearly 25, 30 years.
Really?
And basically anything that makes a city run, streets, drainage, water, sewer.
Well, for example, okay, the super pave stuff, for example, right? I mean, as an engineer, when they come to you and say, we need 3/16 or 8 millimeters or whatever, you know what that means more than the average layperson that might have this job. Is that fair?
Sure.
So
Talking about aggregate size and the asphalt
aggregate
pavement.
size, yeah. I mean, any of the specifications aren't just numbers to you. It's real data because you know the numbers and know what you can work with, right?
Absolutely. It makes a difference whether something works better or less by having the right specifics.
Well, and being able to know that you can change that variable if you have to, because you can do the math just like they could.
Right. That's right.
Well, and where I wanted to go with this, and I'm so glad to have Jason join us today. One of the things I wanted to talk about is basically kind of the hidden infrastructure. There is literally a whole world under the village that nobody touches, knows much about, doesn't see anything of. And I've got some video I've shot with Jason. We'll be interjecting in this as we go. But tell us about what they did 50 years ago. I mean, how do you make a gravity fed versus what do you do?
Well, it really starts out with great planning.
Really?
To take on a 15-mile wide entity and plan infrastructure for 15 miles wide, you could fit
without GPS.
Yeah, back in the day with slide rules and
slide rules,
things
no
like
aerial maps, or if you had an aerial map, you had to fly a plane over it.
Oh,
right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you could take an area. The Hot Springs Village would fit 2 times. I mean, you take 2 Manhattan Islands and put them inside of the Hot Springs Village.
Really?
Same types of water line sizes, same type of fire hydrants, same types of water treatment and wastewater treatment. It's a huge space to occupy with water and sewer and roads and infrastructure, just like a regular city does.
And keep all that working and running and
and
not leaking and not spewing.
Well, there's normal maintenance and stuff like that, but it is totally operational, doing a great job. And I have to commend, the early designers of the Hot Springs Village really had some good foresight, really some creative ideas. And they've got some things there that you don't see too often in any other places in Arkansas.
Like the pressurized system on the east end.
The pressurized sewer system
was unique and rare at that time.
It was ahead of its time, back in the day when it first started. So It was quite a leader, and it's one of I really prefer that system over gravity in some cases. Yeah.
Wow. Well, now, and I want to. We haven't mentioned this at all, so I'm not going to blindside you, but I think it'll be something you want to talk about. A year ago, 2 years ago, they came down my street, tore up most of the manholes, and super sealed off the manholes, and they put smoke through them. And I'm like, so what? There's a leaky manhole. Who cares? Tell me about why we don't want leaky manhole covers.
It's really interesting. In the village, you've got a lot of hilly terrain.
Right.
And when it rains,
as it does tremendously some days,
water gets to one point very quickly in a large amount of volume. And where you put your manholes and your sewers?
Yeah,
all in the low points of the village because everything's draining by gravity. That's where all the water is kind of heading to the lakes, to the creeks. Parallel in that is where we have all our gravity sewer system, and every 350 feet or less, wherever you're changing a direction, you've got a concrete manhole. And so those are the reason for those manholes is for maintenance, so we can get in there and clean out the line and check things and do that. But they're also great opportunities for infiltration and inflow. Inflow is water coming into the top of the manhole or through the sides. Infiltration is water coming in through the sides of the manhole from groundwater that builds up over time.
Oh.
And so we might have
say it was built near a spring or something. It might always.
You could have constant infiltration if you're right in the middle of the spring, and that is the case a lot of the times, even in dry weather, because springs usually always flow, and especially right after a rainstorm. Right at a rainstorm is when you get your inflow, right. And we see our flow rates to our wastewater treatment plant spike. But a week later,
Okay, so and I'm for the layperson here, and for myself too. we see a spike of water that comes through the treatment plant, not because everybody's flushing their toilets all at once.
That's right. Yeah.
But because it's raining.
Right. And so in addition to our normal wastewater flow, we're also carrying storm water that's infiltrating or inflowing into our gravity sewer systems.
Which could overwhelm your system, I guess.
It can, and sometimes it does, because your system is designed for people, the normal amount of usage,
Sure.
Plus a little bit of leaks
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But we have some pretty big rains nowadays.
Yeah, we really do.
It's not, last week we had 4 inches of rain, or just a couple of days ago. It's not unusual to have multi-inch rainfalls in a short period of time, and those are difficult for anybody's system in America to address, because they're not really sized to carry stormwater. They're sized to carry, the pipes and everything are sized to carry normal wastewater flows plus a little bit of storm water. But it can also be exacerbated, or less when you do good maintenance, or if you don't. So,
well, I mean, the manhole rehabilitation was not cheap, if I remember seeing it in the paper.
No, we
had to have outside people come in and do it, and they had to smoke it and fog it, and you see where it leaks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that pays dividends down the road, as we don't have to build a bigger sewage plant or to handle bigger peaks, simply because there's not those peaks coming in like they were.
Well, and it's a constant state of business. Maintenance, anything that's buried in the ground, you're going to have to fix or replace or spot repair, and we monitor that. Years ago we did a big study, the smoke testing, the TVing the lines. We have all that data, and we are still addressing those findings in a prioritized manner. So for example, if we can go fix a hole in the line for $5,000 and get a big drop in infiltration, that's where we go first.
Sure.
Versus spending $5,000 to go fix a small hole somewhere else. And that, for example, the small hole is probably still on our list, because it's not you just don't get the big bang for the buck if we go spend the money there. But we're focused on the big holes where we can spend a reasonable amount of funds and get the best improvement to our system. And that is not just a one and done thing. It is it's a constant state of business. We're constantly fixing manholes. We're constantly replacing sewer lines to keep those, because every day something deteriorates.
It sounds like a daily thing.
Yeah, you may fix one thing, and the next day, somewhere down the line, it starts to crack and starts to leak, or a root starts penetrating.
Oh, but part of the scenario is you don't want to be surprised, right?
Well,
I mean, if that little hole that you didn't fix 2 years ago starts getting a little bigger, you're like, okay, we knew about that.
Right.
That's still on this level of prioritization. We'll take care of that as that bang per buck comes in, and let's take care of that, right?
That's right. And we have a big list that we are still prioritizing and working on. And we're still constantly evaluating better and different and more cost-effective ways to fix the repairs that we need, so we can stretch out those POA dollars the best that we can. Well,
I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, because I want to come back in just a minute. We're going to do another segment here in just a second. We're going to come back. We're talking about how to basically get the most out of our infrastructure dollars, and we're going to talk about the water intake pickup facility and the Lake Lago area. So come join us again in just a few minutes.
D&D Village Properties offers high-quality rentals on Lake DeSoto in beautiful Hot Springs Village. Additionally, D&D Village Properties also offers lake, view, and golf lots inside of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. If you'd like more information, please go to ddvillageprop.com. Again, that's ddvillageprop.com, only in Hot Springs Village.